Council meeting. We are going to begin by the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, if he so desires, by Councilman Gilbert.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today I'm going to have my pastor, Miss Smith, to come and pray for us.
Let's pray together. God, I love you and I thank you for this day. God, I'm just so grateful that we have the opportunity to live in this beautiful city and to live in a country where we have the freedom to come together in a place like this and have our voices heard. And God, I just pray that the conversations tonight would be respectful and that you would be glorified. Give each of these councilmen and women wisdom and discernment as they make decisions, God. And I just pray an extra blessing over their lives and their families as they continue to serve our community so well. God, I love you, and I pray that your will would be done in this place tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much.
Move to approve.
Can I get approval of minutes? We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Before we get started, the first presentation will be election of officers. I just want to say to the council as a whole, each and every one of you, you've done some great work this year, and thanks for all your help. And I'm about to leave this chair tonight, and so just please know how much gratitude I have for each and every one of you and the work you've done. Thank you very much, and I'm going to applaud you. Now we will have elections of officers. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, we got Councilman Henderson. I still can't do this job.
Mr. Chairman, you have done a great job, and while we're making comments, I just want to brag on you a little bit about the job that you've done and some of the changes that you've made to this council since you've been chair. I know those that come and talk at the end of the council meeting certainly appreciate you, because we now have 5 minutes that we give them to talk, mainly because of you, and I'm sure they appreciate that. But I do thank you for the job that you've done and the leadership that you have shown in guiding this council. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to reiterate my thanks for your leadership this year. You've been calm, you've been respectful, you've led by example, and I've learned a lot from you and your service, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now I'm going to proceed with the election of officers, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Attorney Hinton to run the election.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is my understanding that this item will be deferred for 1 week. Is that right?
I'm gonna take back this election, and
as the chair contemplated stated, annually the City Council has the opportunity to elect officers, both a chair and vice chair. So with that being said, I now want to open the floor for nominations for the position of chair.
Mr. Attorney? Yes. I'd like to nominate Councilman Ken Smith for the chair of the council.
It's moved and seconded for nomination of Ken Smith for the position of chair. Any other nominations? I would entertain a motion to close nominations and vote for
Second.
Councilman Smith by acclamation.
I was thinking.
You're not going to let
Is there a
us do
second?
this, are you?
Was there a second?
There's a second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I abstain.
One abstention. Congratulations. Very good. Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, I'll go and open the floor also for vice chair.
Yes, sir. Let me
And the floor is
clear.
now open for nominations for the position of vice chair.
Mr. Chair, I move to nominate Kirsten Oglesby for vice chair.
Yes, sir. I also have a light by Councilwoman Coonrod that just came on.
It's moved and seconded for Councilman Erskine Oglesby to serve in the position of vice chair. Any additional nominations? With that being said, can I get a motion? I was waiting for the echo again. A motion to close nominations and vote by acclamation Erskine Oglesby for the position of vice chair. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? One abstention. Congratulations.
Thank you, Wade. We appreciate that very much. And thank you to all of my colleagues. I very much appreciate that, and it is an honor to sit in this chair and lead this council forward over the next year. And let me be the first on the mic to officially congratulate also Vice Chair Oglesby. Congratulations as well. So I look forward to working with you over the next year. And although it's already been said, Councilman Mitchell, it has been an incredible privilege and honor to serve with you, not just on this council, but in a vice chair role. We spent a lot of extra time together, and through that time, as echoed by many of the city employees that have had the opportunity to work with you over the last year as well, your leadership on this council and much of what you have gotten done has definitely made us a much more open and welcoming council to both the public, the staff, and all the work that we do every single day. And we very much appreciate your leadership over the last year, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to ordinances on final reading right after. I look out into the audience and for a very rare occasion, be able to welcome my beautiful bride this evening for being here. I said, thank you very much. Love you. Madam Chair, will you please start on ordinances final reading 5A?
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 25, Article 1, Section 25, 39 through 39, panhandling.
Councilwoman Burrs, followed by Councilman Henderson.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, I see no further lights. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay.
Nay.
I have 2 noes.
Yes.
Thank you. B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1700 Dodds Avenue, more particularly described herein from R2 residential zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilwoman Coonrod, followed by Councilman Byrd. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, ordinances, first reading, A.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 11, by the addition of a new Article 17 entitled Small Business Construction Mitigation Grant Program, and to amend ordinance known as the FY 2018 Budget Ordinance so as to reappropriate $19,000 from the Department of Economic and Community Development for use in the Small Business Construction Mitigation Grant Program to the Industrial Development Board.
All right, prior to calling on a council person, Madam Clerk, I believe your version said 19,000. Can we let the record show that let the record show that as per the original publicly advised agenda, it is 119,000. And with that, Councilman Oglesby, are you prepared to make an amendment?
I am, Mr. Chair. I would like to amend that amount from 119,000 to 19,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, but first, Councilman, were you prepared to move on the item so we can have it on the floor prior to that motion?
I am, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the item, and then we also have a motion and a second to amend to change the 119,000 as advertised to 19,000. So we'll vote on the amendment first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. All right, then I need to entertain a motion to approve as amended.
I'd like to make that motion to amend it to 19,000.
Approve as amended.
Tell me to approve.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you very much. B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located in the 500 block of May Street, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to ERA2 residential attached zone.
Councilman Henderson?
I want to check, I guess we need to
Yeah, we should.
have a public
Yeah,
hearing
let me-
first.
Let me ask about this one first. Is the applicant here on this item? Yes? Is there any opposition here? No? Councilman, would you like a presentation?
Well, I want John, Mr. Bridger, I think what staff version is for ERD2.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Attorney, is there any reason to amend it because, since we have a staff version of ERD2, can I just,
Councilman, you can just move for approval of the staff version.
okay.
I'm gonna encourage for due process, if the applicant wanted to make, if that's different, I think the applicant requested RA
That's right.
too, so I would recommend just you maybe make sure he has an opportunity to make some remarks before we take action.
Sir, would you like to make any comments? You have the floor for 7 minutes if you would like to.
Thank you for seeing me. My understanding was that it was going to be changed from the original one I asked for was RA3 and changed to RA2. Is that correct, or?
Mr. Rothwell, so the staff recommended ERD2, and when you came to my office and we met, and you showed me what you were wanting to build, I said at the time you would be better served, and if I remember right, that's what we presented at the Hill City neighborhood was ERD2. That was the drawing that you showed me was residential detached 2 stories, and that's one of the reasons I think that staff recommended ERD2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm ready to move ERD2 if you're acceptable with that. That's what we had discussed.
You're the one in charge, so we do whatever.
Well, the drawing that you showed me, that's what you're planning on building, correct?
Yes, sir.
What you showed me?
2-story.
Okay, so ERD2 will allow you to build what you presented to me.
Clarify that.
Go ahead.
John?
I think it won't get the same number of lots. I think he does lose a lot because of the minimum frontage requirements in ERD compared to ERA. RA allows you to get smaller lot frontages and smaller lot sizes, which allows him to get, I think, 1 additional lot. ERD would basically, he would have to reduce the total number from 6 to 5 to make that work, is my understanding.
Yes, sir. The size of the lots was my main concern, is we needed to cut them to this other RA2 to be able to, the price of the property is so high in that area, which everyone knows. That's why we need to get a maximum of what we can get on the property.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you mind if we defer this for a week till we
Well,
we talk about this and because it was my understanding and what you presented at the neighborhood association was a ERD two. And I just want to make sure that we're clear as to what it is we're presenting.
well, of course, we'll do whatever you say. I'd like to come to some conclusion tonight if we can, but
Well, my inclination is either to defer a week or to move for ERD two, which would be the residential detached two-story, which is what you had presented to me in that plan.
are you saying to defer it 1 week? Is
Yes, sir.
that what-
Yes.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to defer this till the 17th.
All right. We have a motion and a second to defer for 1 week to the 17th. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed is nay. So ordered, it'll be deferred until the 17th. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located in the 700 to 800 blocks of Franklin Street and 2 unopened streets, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone.
All right. Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to know if the applicant's here.
All right. Sorry, I thought you had your light on. Now you're waiting. Is the applicant here? Is there any opposition here?
Move deny.
Yeah, look at that. I have a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Power in numbers. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all for being here.
All right. D, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 3407 Plumwood Road, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to R2 residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant here? Yes. Is there any opposition here? Councilman Gilbert.
I'd like for John to come up to go over some of the conditions.
Sure. Mind book out. There's one condition recommended by Planning Commission. Let me pull it up. Here we go. As the current recommendation from Planning Commission is approved, subject to parking being in the rear of the property.
Understood, sir?
All right. Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you. E, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 3807 17th Avenue, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to R2 residential zone.
Is the applicant here? Yes. Is there any opposition here? Councilman Oglesby, did you have a concern on this property you want to do?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to defer it 1 week till April the 17th. At that time, we will be able to listen to a presentation.
All right, very well. Good with that. I have a motion and a second to defer until the 17th, 1 week. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, F.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1820 Madison Street, more particularly described herein from M1 manufacturing zone to URA3 urban residential attached zone, 3 stories.
Is the applicant here? Is there any opposition here? No? Councilman Oglesby?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Jefferson Heights Neighborhood Association in voicing their thoughts and concerns about this piece of property, and with a lot of discussion, a consensus was made where everybody can be happy with the approval. So at this time, I move to approve the planning and staff version for URA3 for this.
All right, I have a motion and a second. See no further comment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Staff version. All right, Madam Clerk, G.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1942 Madison Street, more particularly described herein from M1 manufacturing zone to URA3 urban residential attached zone, 3 stories.
All right, is the applicant here? Is there any opposition here? Seeing none, Councilman Oglesby?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, for the same reason, I move that we approve the planning and staff version for URA3 for this item.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you very much. H, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 906 and 912 East 14th Street, more particularly described herein from R3 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone.
Is the applicant here? Is there any opposition? Councilman Byrd?
Being that I've heard no opposition on this, I move to approve.
All right. Councilwoman Coonrod? Were you second? All right. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Aye, please, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, Article 5, Division 3, Section 3864, height and area exceptions, and Division 5, Section 3884, height, area, and building regulations, 1 for areas outside the urban overlay zone.
Councilman Ledford?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you. Madam Clerk, moving to Resolution 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement to exercise option to renew with River City Ducks LLC in substantially the form attached for a 1-year renewal of the license agreement for the non-exclusive use of the Ross's Landing ramp.
Councilman Oglesby.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve. Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. B, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to accept, if awarded, a Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development grant for the former Harriet Tubman Home site in the amount of $100,000 with the city's matching funds in the amount of $100,000 for a total amount of $200,000.
All right, Councilman Byrd, followed by Councilwoman Coonrod.
Move to approve.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. C, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development to award home program funding to Chattanooga Community Housing Development Organization, CCHDO, for the development of affordable home ownership opportunities for an amount up to $155,000, and to Tower Construction Company to develop 4 affordable rental houses for an amount up to $160,000, for a total amount up to $315,000, and to authorize the reallocation of $320,000 in home funding from a previous authorized Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise CNE project as referenced in resolution number 28934 to a new building located at 2104 Union Avenue for 8 affordable rental units.
Councilwoman Coonrod, followed by Councilman Byrd. All right, have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. So ordered. D, please.
A resolution authorizing the appointment of Prince Muhammad as a special police officer unarmed for the McCamey Animal Center to do special duty as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Ledford, followed by Councilman Gilbert. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. E, please.
A resolution abandoning a special exceptions permit for a residential plan unit development for properties located in the 4400 block of Webb Road and the 4200 through 4500 blocks of Sailmaker Circle.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is the applicant here? Yes. Sir, is there any opposition here? Councilman Ledford.
Mr. Chair, this is in your district, so I happily move for approval.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. F, please.
A resolution authorizing a special exceptions permit for a residential plan unit development for properties located in the 4400 block of Webb Road and the 4200 block through 4500 blocks of Sailmaker Circle.
Thank you, ma'am. Applicant here? Opposition here? Hey, John? This item, there is an alternate version. Can you please describe for us the changes or the differences between the planning and staff version and that alternate version, please?
Yeah, it has an added condition, and I can read it for the record if you like.
Please.
Okay. Give me a second. The special exception permit shall be subject to the condition that Lot 45 will remain as green space with no dwellings, grading, or site clearing activities except for the removal of dead trees or invasive growth and a clubhouse facility.
Thank you, sir. As the applicant, you have 7 minutes if you'd like to come and address the council.
The
Please give us your name.
application.
Please give us your name for the record.
Oh, it's Brent Hawkins.
Thank
I'm
you.
currently the vice president of the association, been a member of the board off and on for over 10 years, and have been an early resident of the subdivision.
Thank you.
The application is the culmination of a multi-year effort of the different board of directors over the years, the association, the city attorney, and of course, Councilman Smith. This property, there were originally 2 parcels, bringing it in as one because one would be landlocked. Has seen auction at the courthouse steps. It has a joint lawsuit against it at one time with the city and association of co-plaintiffs, and we're here today. The board and the association has always planned to bring this property into the PUD as a green space. We rewrote our declaration and bylaws, amended and recorded with the county, stating that once we bring it into the PUD, it would be common property, and as defined within the declaration, it can never be built on, and basically it is for the use of all the members of the association. At a special meeting in July of 2016 was when this was voted on, and the 3 members of the committee in charge of rewriting the declaration and presenting it to the members was Mike Brown, Don Sapal, and John Collier. They presented the draft after the association's attorneys at Miller & Martin had reviewed it. It was voted on at that special meeting and unanimously passed. This included the provisions to eventually bring these 2 parcels into the PUD, or subdivision, and that they would become dedicated common properties green space. Improvements so far to date, over the last few years, we have, or since we took title, we have invested thousands and thousands of dollars. Legal fees, grading, we replaced a 3-foot drain and head wall, repaired the curb, removed several dozen dead trees, installed irrigation, overseeded and planted 6 trees this year with the plans to plant more trees each fall, winter, the proper time. The restriction, our concern, the boards and the majority of the property owners would require the association to expend additional funds, a $400 application fee, possible legal fees, to apply to the RPC and City Council if the association wants to install a sidewalk, a gazebo, which we've talked about, a children's it's a kid's playground basically, a parking pad or pool for the clubhouse, and even plant trees. We're not sure that this really would even allow that. The association believes that this could be an unfair burden since the constraints of the declaration and bylaws do not allow the development of any common area. It's spelled out. We ask that the original application as presented be approved. I have copies of excerpts of the declaration if the council so desires, but and final, if we can't do the original application, then that lot 22, as of today, is unaffected by this restriction because it borders it, and that we need to find a streamlined way without having to make an application every time we do an improvement.
Is that all, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Hawkins, there's very few pieces of property in this entire city, including my own, that I'm less familiar with than this one.
I know.
As you are quite aware, an 18-month ordeal with you and the Homeowners Association to acquire this piece of property, so I'm very familiar. You bring up a couple of good points with the restriction, and with that, John, would you mind answering a couple questions for me?
Sure.
Mr. Hawkins raised a couple of good points. We've got a condition in here about a clubhouse, and there was question, pool, gazebo, sidewalks. These are public space items, or I would consider them to still be public space items. Obviously, the word clubhouse may or may not cover these. Can you give me, from an RPA's perspective, if the Homeowners Association decided before a clubhouse, maybe they're saving money for that, they wanted to build a gazebo and they wanted to put sidewalks in, would they be prohibited from doing that in the current wording?
It might, if you want to add a little bit of broader, to kind of give some, you could say recreational improvements for the, it's not, if I could ask with a follow-up question, if I may. I think the intent is to ensure that that property is not developed for private use or additional dwellings. It's for the enjoyment of the neighborhood association.
Correct.
So if that's the intent, then one condition you could add to this is, except for clubhouse and recreational park-related improvements to the property. So to me, and maybe this might be worth, if you wanted to defer it a week, I could work on some language and tighten it up for you. But the idea would be these are park-related improvements, not something like where you're building houses or any other kind of for private use. Is that a fair statement?
It is, and I would personally be fine with the language that you had.
Okay.
As long as as far as park-related improvements, as long as it would allow the Homeowners Association to build something like a gazebo or even put in sidewalks. And Mr. Hawkins, just so you're aware, I've never approved a PUD without a site plan. So this doesn't really just have to do with open space, but approving a PUD on a wide open space is not common practice for any of us, I don't think. But so I do want you to be able to enjoy this space as we intended all the years that we fought for it. I just want to ensure that when you're gone potentially, or other individuals are gone that have this intention, that the property is still protected without at least coming back before for additional authorization. So John, if you feel like the language that you used is acceptable, I'd be more than happy to entertain a motion to amend the alternate version to include that language. Mr. Hawkins, if that covers your concern and still allows you to do what you want to do from a community perspective.
It does. I mean, I actually took the wording, and this special exceptions permit will be subject to the condition that the portion of Lot 45 owned by Windward Cove Homeowners Association Incorporated will remain a green space with no dwellings, grading, or site clearing activities for construction except for the removal of dead trees, invasive overgrowth, a clubhouse facility including a pool and parking, gazebo, kids' playground, and any other improvements or repairs necessary to maintain the common property green space as permitted by the declaration and bylaws.
With the exception of the end, which is something this council has no control over. That's the problem, is putting that in there allows you to change those declarations to be townhomes if you wanted to. So with the exception of that, I'm fine with the specifications and what you want to lay forward if we cut it off at that point. Would you be amenable to that, sir?
Yes, I would be.
Okay, can you read it again, please, for the record, with the exceptions of the bylaws?
Okay, this special exceptions permit shall be subject to the condition that the portion of Lot 45 owned by Windward Cove Homeowner Association will remain as green space with no dwellings, grading, or site clearing activities for construction except for the removal of dead trees or invasive overgrowth, a clubhouse facility, including a pool and parking, gazebo, kids' playground, and kids' playground.
Yes, sir? If that's acceptable, was there anything, John? I thought there was a,
There's a little bit, I mean, if you want to tighten it up a little bit, okay, I'm gonna take this one more stab, to make it a little more concise, if that's okay.
sure, I mean, it just left out the recreational piece, I believe.
Here we go. This special exceptions permit shall be subject to the condition that Lot 45 will remain as green space with no dwellings, grading, or site clearing activities for construction except for the removal of dead trees or invasive overgrowth, a clubhouse facility including a pool and parking, gazebo, and kids' playground, period.
Mr. Hawkins, is that acceptable?
That is, I mean, as owned by Windward Cove Homeowners Association.
That's a
way-
given, yeah.
Okay,
So that is acceptable then.
that is
Want to make
acceptable.
sure everybody can do what they need to do.
Oh, sidewalks, did we? Oh, I did not have sidewalks listed in here, but there's a requirement within our declaration.
Hey, John, does
To have-
recreational improvements capture that?
I would say the more literal you are, the better at the back end.
Let's add sidewalks.
Let's add sidewalks, and you're done.
City Attorney, did you get that? All right, and sidewalks, does that cover everything? All right, we might have actually made that work. Okay, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to accept or approve the alternate version with, well, actually, I guess we should get it on the floor first, but let's do that. Councilman Ledford, your light's on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to, since this is in your district, move for approval of alternate version with
Yeah,
the
so-
amendments as read if the city council has, city attorney has those.
Let's get just the alternate version first.
Okay.
Have a motion to approve the alternate version. Have a second? Have a motion and a second. Now, sir, a motion for the amendment.
Motion to amend as read into the minutes.
All right, I have a motion and a second for the amendment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve as amended.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the alternate version as amended.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved as nay. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Very much appreciated. Hey, John, I do have one more question. Not going to let you go, though.
Yes, sir.
We specified lot 45. I want to ensure lot 22 is okay as it was laid out in the PUD. This did not affect anything with lot 22
No.
and its redraw boundaries.
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, G, please.
A resolution adopting a land use plan for the South Broad District Study, a vision for revitalization, in an effort to establish a public vision for the future of South Broad Street, the Wheeling Foundry, U.S. Pipe Site, and Southside Gardens neighborhood.
Councilman Oglesby, followed by Councilman Ledford.
Yes, John, could you give us a quick overview of this for
Sure.
those who may not be familiar with it?
Sure. This, again, is the adoption of the South Side District Plan that was part of a 6-month process working with the Chattanooga Design Studio and the community. A whole series of public meetings was conducted to frame a vision for the redevelopment of the South Side community that included the former Wayland Foundry site as well as parts of South Broad immediately south of I-24 in the neighborhood known as Southside Gateway. So this plan was a pretty robust effort. It really took a more detailed look from an urban design perspective of how we see the future of that community building out. And so it focused on several key sites, including, oh my gosh, I'm losing my high school. Howard, good Lord, thank you. Howard High School, and how that campus can be incorporated into the neighborhood, taking a look at the public spaces around Howard High School and how it can be used to complement that high school facility. It took into consideration the reworking of the interchange of I-24 and I-24 and US 27. And so how that's going to create some new redevelopment opportunities around that location. And particularly, again, how can we make better use of the Wheel and Foundry site? That is a tremendous gateway to not only Southside, but to Chattanooga community. And I think that vision will serve as a policy guide. So going forward, when we think about future capital improvements, we look at future rezoning requests, we'll use that plan as a guide to inform our staff recommendations and future community investments. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I want to take an opportunity to thank Eric Meyer with the design studio and the countless number of citizens that was involved in this visioning. This is one project that's going to be reflective of not just a handful of people making decisions or sharing their idea, but a number of different citizen groups came, over 200, to make this possible. So this is going to be a very exciting time, not only for the South Broad project, but for our city, because this is going to help us transition into what Chattanooga is going to be moving forward, and that's a more complete whole city. With that being said, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve.
Councilman Ledford, you had a light on?
I did. Mr. Chair, I was just going to second the motion. Before I did, I wanted to recognize someone who's poured their heart and soul into the South Broad area for a very, very long time, and that's the Reverend Ann Weeks. And I want to thank you for your dedication to that area as well. Thank you very much. And I happily second the motion.
Very well. Before I take a vote, I'm also going to thank Mr. Mallon for your work. Reverend Weeks, you and I worked on South Broad years and years and years and years ago, and you have been there steadfast ever since. So let me echo my colleagues' thank you and appreciation. You have always been there for that district, and we very much appreciate all your work. And with that, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, that takes us to H, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 for Hazen and Sawyer for professional services for design and construction phase services related to contract number W14006-101, Moccasin Bend WWTP secondary clarifier upgrades, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $98,566 for a revised contract amount not to exceed $1,939,366.
I've got Councilman Henderson, followed by Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilman Ledford?
If I could just take 1 second, Mr. Chair, could we get Justin just to give us a 30-second overview on what the consent decree entails, because there are several items that follow this that have large dollar amounts. I think the public would benefit from a quick explanation.
We can definitely get Mr. Holland. 30 seconds is questionable.
Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Ledford. Actually, it's a perfect night to ask about the consent decree because our program manager is here. Mike Marino with Jacobs Engineering is our, the city is contracted with him as a consultant, and he can potentially give a 30-second review of what the consent decree is, much more concise than I can. So, Mike Marino.
Okay, I don't see the you took 45 seconds. Just
okay, quickly. So, the consent decree, which the city's been under since 2013, actually this month, we're about 5 years in, is basically a settlement out of court from the EPA. It's a mandate for us to do a large volume of projects in a certain amount of time, all having to do with the wastewater treatment system at the plant and the collection system for violations of sanitary sewer overflows and other things. So we are deep into it, and these projects that we're working on right now, these are all consent decree projects, and these are change orders either for construction, for additional work needed on the project, requested by the city, or for professional services relating to that construction work, all within budget. These are all within SRF loans or the state revolving loan program. So,
Concise enough, Councilman? there any further questions on this item? No? All right, I had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Aye, please.
A resolution authorizing the award of contract number P16005-201 to Advanced Training Systems, Inc. of South Paul, Indiana, HCSO CPD target system in the amount of $88,130 with a contingency in the amount of $4,400 for an amount not to exceed $92,530.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Jay, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 for Lane Inliner LLC of Tucker, Georgia, relative to contract number W12029-201, Friars Branch Interceptor and Basin Improvements, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $1,657,632 to reduce the contingency in the amount of $200,000 for a revised contract amount not to exceed $9,537,391.50 for a total amount of $9,737,391.50.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Kay, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 for CDM Smith, Inc. for professional services for design and construction phase services relative to contract number W12026-102, DuPont Pump Station and Basin Improvements, Phase 2, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $985,284.08 for a revised contract amount not to exceed $2,580,884.08.
Councilman Mitchell, followed by Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. L, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 final for Chase Plumbing and Mechanical, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee, relative to contract number W12026-201, DuPont Pump Station and Basin Improvements, Phase 1, a consent decree project for a decreased amount of $335,508.81 to release the contingency in the amount of $272,440 for revised contract amount not to exceed $5,113,293.19.
Councilman Mitchell, followed by Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you. M, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 for CH2M Hill Engineers for professional services for design and construction phase services relative to contract number W15002-101, Friars Branch, South Chickamauga Creek 5 Interceptor Rehabilitation, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $104,130 for a revised contract amount not to exceed $925,080.
Councilman Gilbert, followed by Councilwoman Burrs.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. N, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 2 final for Arcadis US Inc. for professional construction phase services relative to contract number S12009-103 Carter Street Storm Drainage Pipe Repair Project, a consent decree project for a decreased amount of $350 for revised contract amount not to exceed $97,360.
All right, what's the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. O, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 for Arcadis US Inc. for professional services for design and construction phase services relating to contract number W09011-101, Orchard Knob Pump Station Improvements, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $25,228 for a revised contract amount not to exceed $677,745.
Councilman Byrd, followed by Councilman Gilbert. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. P, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 4 for Burns and McDonald Engineering Company for professional services for design and construction phase services relating to contract number W12016-012, City Code CSOTF, and pump station improvements, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $6,739.92 for revised contract amount not to exceed $526,720.62.
Councilman Byrd, followed by Councilman Gilbert. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you. Q, please.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 2 for Burns and McDonald Engineering Company for professional services for design and construction phase services relative to contract number W16013-101, City Code Pump Station Reliability Improvement, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $56,300 for revised contract amount not to exceed $1,181,150.
Councilman Byrd.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. R, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to enter into blanket contracts for professional services for the support of wastewater capital improvements program, contract number W18001, for the 19 consultant firms that submitted qualifications in the 6 different categories per their qualification package for year 1 of a term up to 5 years, with this year's amount to be no more than $7.5 million.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Is Mr. Holland here?
He's still
Just
here.
giving you a rough time. Never mind. So the audience needs to know that we've gone over this in a lot of depth. I just thought I'd mess with you a little bit. Move approval.
Nothing to add, Justin? Are you good? Don't want to stir it up?
Sit down, Justin.
All right, fabulous. Yeah, have a seat. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. Thank you. S, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Transportation to enter into a partnership agreement with Cameron Harbor South, Lot 1, GP, for Parkway Powerhouse, located at 801 Riverfront Parkway, project number T18001-804, and to accept a contribution of $15,178.38 towards the cost of 6 pedestrian light poles, luminaires, conduits, and installation.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. T, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Transportation to enter into an agreement with Clean Co. Construction relative to contract number T17006-201 for construction services on Dodge Avenue associated with Community Development Block Grant Sidewalk Install Repair in the amount of $321,421.75 with a contingency amount of $32,142.18 for a total amount of $353,563.93.
Move to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. You, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Transportation to enter into an agreement with Geostabilization International for construction services relative to contract number T16004-201 associated with construction services for slope stabilization along Grenada Drive, originally established by City Council action on May 30, 2017, to increase the contract amount by $92,500 for the final revised contract amount to $350,340 in accordance with specifications as shown on the statewide contract SWC 191.
Move to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Ordered. V, please.
A resolution authorizing the appointments of Corey Jack Ward and Andrew Matheson as special police officers unarmed for the Chattanooga Area Regional Transportation Authority, Carter, to do special duties as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
What's the pleasure? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. Thank you very much. That takes us to purchases. Did the printouts make it in any of the folders before this? Okay, I just want to make sure everybody had those. Ms. Woodard?
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, for your reporting purposes tonight, we have an emergency purchase that was on behalf of our Economic and Community Development Department. It was for the emergency purchase of a homeless shelter. It was awarded to the Chattanooga Regional Homeless Coalition in the amount of $12,000. It was an emergency purchase to provide temporary housing for homeless persons who are residing on city-contaminated land.
All right, thank you. Donnie, you want to give any other details about what that's for?
I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, or I can give you guys a brief overview.
I don't see any specific questions, but this has been a topic in the news, so if
Sure.
do you have anything?
So some of you are aware of the fact that behind the wellness center is property that the city owns. The property rather is contaminated and is a brownfield. Organically, folks began to take tents to the site and to set up there for housing. The TDEC, as well as EPA, won't even authorize the city to allow people to live in built structures that are on that land. And so once we became aware of it, of the folks setting up residents there, and then other nonprofits encouraging folks to go there. So a lot of folks saw that many of the tents were the same color, and they thought that it was a sanctioned action by the city, and it was not. The tents were uniform because there were a number of nonprofits that were encouraging folks to set up residents there in the camp. So again, the property is toxic and certainly unsafe for humans. There were some children over there, so it's especially unhealthy for children. So we have entered into an agreement with the Homeless Coalition to take those residents and house them in the shelter, the emergency shelter that we fund often for the housing, for the Homeless Coalition rather. Our staff and members of agencies from the city, around the city, have gone and had individual conversations with each of the folks that were there to determine which of those folks are interested in housing, permanent housing, and most of them are, many of them are not. So we are working with those individuals as well as agencies to see if we can get them in permanent housing and certainly better housing situations.
Great. And so this emergency purchase was to keep the shelter open long enough?
Yes, sir. It was to give the shelter the funds that they need to have personnel allow the folks to be at their facility.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Woodard?
And on to our regular list of items for your consideration and approval tonight. All on behalf of Public Works. We first have a blanket contract renewal for mechanical services to be awarded to H&H Brown, Inc. in an estimated annual amount of $1 million. Second, a new blanket contract for window tinting and replacement services to be awarded to Ross Glass and Aluminum, LLC, in an estimated annual amount of $200,000. Next, we have the purchase of one MCC switchboard to be awarded to Gex Pro in the amount of $95,055. Next, we have a blanket contract name change only. It's for our blanket contract for concrete pipe, and the new vendor name will be Foley Products Company. Next, we have a new blanket contract for uniform and textile rental and laundry service citywide. It's to be awarded to UniFirst Uniform Services in an estimated annual amount of $300,000. Next, we have a new blanket contract for pest control service citywide. It's to be awarded to Kirkland's Pest Control an estimated annual amount of $40,000. And finally, we have a new blanket contracts for grounds maintenance for city parks to be awarded to First RNA Property Maintenance, second, City Green Services, third, Images Landscape Service, Inc., and fourth, ERMC LLC, in a total estimated annual amount of $480,000.
Thank you. Councilman Gilbert?
I have a question on the 164-904 on the pest control. That's for all city buildings?
That's correct.
If we have any issues or concerns, do they come back? Will they charge us more, or will that cover the 40,000?
By concerns, do you mean an increased need for service?
Well, say that person does their job, and then 2 weeks later you see evidence that there's still something there. Does he come back? He or she comes back to service that, or do I have an extra charge for coming back?
The department would then consult with the vendor to and with our building maintenance to determine what the cause for the short-term existing need would be. If it's an issue that doesn't seem to be easily explained, meaning that for some reason they couldn't determine that was the scope of it at the time that they did the treatment. If there's a problem with the vendor, then purchasing would be involved. But it's basically a conversation with the vendor to figure out what the circumstance is and then reasonably treat it.
The reason I say that, 'cause I know in the past we had some concerns with a vendor that obviously has some issues. And I don't think it's this company or not, but they had some issues. That's why I'm checking.
I'd be happy to help address that.
Yes.
So we've dealt with pest control companies for quite a while. This vendor's performed pretty successfully in the past. We haven't had many problems with them. They have come back to address problems frequently, and they've generally performed well. We don't have any complaints with the existing vendor, and they've been reasonable to come back and treat areas that have problems.
They don't charge us a double, do they, if they come back?
So this is a contract that provides for routine service. We've not experienced any additional charges. I'd have to go back and look at the exact language in the contract, but I'd be happy to get back with you. But the contractor has performed well when they've been called back. But I'd be happy to get back with you on whether or not they include charges in our contract.
How long have we had this vendor?
This is our second blanket contract term with Kirkland's.
How many years they had the first time?
At least 3.
3. All right.
Good, Councilman.
For right now.
Councilman Henderson.
Hey, Justin, do they have any experience in getting rid of beavers?
I'm not sure their
just say no.
qualifications for trapping beavers, but we do have a contractor who specializes in that, and they are active.
That's not the same group?
No, it's not
This
the
is
same group, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you good? Councilman Ledford.
Sorry, Justin, I'm gonna have to add on. How about coyotes?
I don't know that we have a contract that addresses coyotes specifically, but I'd be happy to get back with you.
I would love to hear a solution. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir.
Sounds like a public works item. All right, I see no further lights. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second to approve purchases. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. It's ordered. Thank you, Ms. Woodard.
Thank you.
That takes us to other business. Is there anybody on the council with other business? Councilman Gilbert.
Yes, Chair. In celebration of Mental Health Awareness Month, Tuesday, May the 1st, at the Camp House at 5:30, they're going to have Embracing Hope for Mental Health. There's a lot of agencies coming together as a whole to enlighten people about mental health. And also, there's going to be a gentleman there with a dog that he trained to help with treatment of mental health. So if you have nothing to do, please come by and witness and ask questions about mental health.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. I got a joke.
Oh, good.
She's back. Why did the PowerPoint presentation cross the road? To get to the other slide. Y'all just.
She will be here every Tuesday night. Councilman Oglesby.
I don't know if I can beat that one, but I'll try. It's not a joke. But this past weekend, but it's fun. This past weekend, Chattanooga had a group of 26 artists from around the country paint one large mural over on a manufacturing building on Oakland between 45th and 43rd. It was a great time by all. Very creative, very fun, but it really gave that street and that neighborhood a real good jolt because they were extremely talented. And I encourage anybody that's over in that area, go by Oakland between 45th and 43rd to look at some really, really great street art on the building over there. This coming Saturday, East Lake is having their festival over at the East Lake Park, known to most as the Duck Pond. So I encourage everybody to go over there. There's going to be food, fun, reading to children, music. It's just going to be a very, very fun and exciting day. So I encourage everybody to go out and support East Lake. Lastly, we were supposed to have been scheduled to have the Alton Park Festival last Saturday, but due to inclement weather, it was rescheduled till April the 21st. So we encouraging everybody to first come over and partake in the cleanup and revitalization of Fagan Street between 38 and Workman Drive. Police, fire, public works, transportation. It's just going to be a total city effort working with the community over there in Alton Park. After the cleanup of Fagan Street, we will then go to the Southside Community Park where there'll be music, fun, and food and games for the kids. So it's going to be a very, very exciting, fun-filled family day over in the Alton Park community on Saturday, April the 21st. So you'll be hearing more about it. But I encourage everybody to come over and participate in the cleanup and the revitalization, and then afterwards, let's just go have a lot of fun. The police is going to be talking about safety. EPB is going to be talking about energy savings. Tennessee American Water is going to be talking to you about conserving water. It's just going to be a lot of education and fun activities. So put that on your calendar for April the 21st in the Alton Park community. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Council Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make an appointment to the Community Development Citizens Advisory Board. I'm appointing Richard Beelan to the District 2 position.
Okay. Got it. All right. Thank you, sir. Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Hold on a second. I had the pleasure when I first became a councilman of approving a company, M&M Industries, to come to Chattanooga. Right now, that opportunity has came full circle because now they are hiring and taking applications. So if you know anyone who is looking for a job, have them put an application in at www.ultimatepale.com, and that's ultimate ULTAMETPALE.com. They can put an application in now, and they will be receiving that. And also on April the 27th, they're doing a block party at the M&M site where you can come and listen to music, games, bounce houses, and have food. It's free, and you will get to tour the facility and talk to some of the people about exactly what they will be doing at this site. So if you can check that out, I would greatly appreciate it. That will be Friday, April the 27th from 4 to 7, a block party with music, games, and bounce houses for the family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The council can recall a few months ago, you all adopted some revisions in the short-term vacation rental ordinance. At that time, we added a couple of sections of the community to enlarge the district. We also cleaned up a couple of items. One of those areas that we included was Rosemont Drive. When the map was drawn originally, it included one side of the street, but through clerical error, it actually should have included both sides of the street. So I wanted to just state on the record that the Rosemont addition should include both sides of the street. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Councilman, did you need to address that? Okay. Councilman Henderson.
Mr. Attorney, are you saying that that needs to go on the agenda, or is that something that we can fix just through recording it correctly?
I've just done that. I think we're done. The map itself, it does not need to come back before council. For
Okay.
an agenda item. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Gilbert. Wait, okay. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you. Councilman Oglesby, I just got one request for April the 21st. Can you get that officer to come out there and do the stanky leg?
Consider it done.
There you
If
go.
it means anything, I'll do it with you so we could, you know. Oh. Oh, she was looking at you. I thought you was going to be doing it. Oh.
Yeah, sounds like a date. Good deal. Is that it, Councilwoman? Thank you. And Councilman Henderson, I got you already, right? Okay. Oops, sorry, Councilman Gilbert.
Yes, Ms. Mara? She just left? Is Stacy still here? Everybody gone.
Ms. Loudermilk,
Well,
you're on deck.
Well, Miss Vicky then come here from here.
Up, Carrie. Carrie.
Carrie? Somebody introduce this young lady, please.
Yes,
From
sir.
HR. Can you introduce us to City Council, this young lady that's sitting in the back?
Who's that?
Oh,
Our new HR
maybe Mr. Sammons is better. We'll just keep on going down the line until we get somebody that'll take care of it for us.
Since you overlooked me, I'll overlook
I'm
that.
sorry, sir.
I'll be glad to do so. Members of the council, it is my pleasure, after a long search, to introduce our soon-to-be Director of Human Resources, Ms. Beverly Moultrie.
Good afternoon. Since this is my first time here, I will just briefly give an overview about me. I'm a Chattanooga native for the past 16 years and have been in human resources, working in a manufacturing corporate America type environment for the past 25 years in human resources. And I'm just thrilled to be here to give my service to the city and really look forward to it.
Well, very much. Welcome.
Thank you.
Councilman Gilbert, your light's still on.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to working with you, and also Vicky, come here from up here for a minute, because you've been a soldier. I want to thank Ms. Vicky for all she has done for HR. She has worked constantly. I call late. It could be in the evening, after hours. She answers. I really appreciate it for you working so diligently with HR and making some improvements, and hope this young lady can keep it going. Thank you.
Sure she will. Thank you.
All right.
And I'll definitely give it my best. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Ms. Haley, how are you going to get away quite that easy? Now that we have an official head of HR, will you be staying with us much longer, or are you anxiously awaiting vacation?
Anxiously awaiting vacation and retirement.
Is this your last council meeting before your second retirement?
Probably one more.
One more? All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing, we're going to hold you to it. We'll look forward to seeing you one more time. Thank you for everything. Now, don't everybody sit down. Hang on, I got more lights. Hang on. Councilman Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. If the council will, a resume was sent out today, And if you'll please take a look at that. And we have added on next week's agenda, this is a mayoral appointment, so it needs approval of the council, and we'll be voting on that next week.
Very good. Thank you, sir, for reminding us. That means you have one week to make all your rounds. I have no doubt that'll be very easy. Thank you, sir, for remembering. I have no further lights on other business. That takes us to committee reports. Start with Councilman Oglesby. I have none. Councilman Mitchell.
I have no committee or report.
We'll fix that. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, there's a lot going on with planning and zoning across the city. I would like to request a planning and zoning meeting next week, April 17th, immediately following the agenda session, if it pleases the council.
What if it doesn't?
Then I'll ask for another date.
Madam Clerk, did you get that? Planning and zoning next week? Very good.
Thank you, ex-chairman.
Councilman Ledford, while we're on you, one of the privileges I have as chair is selecting committee chairs. And one that I think I would like to make immediately is to leave you with planning and zoning and to continue to march forward with that if you are so inclined to accept that, sir.
Thank you, sir. It'll be my honor.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson.
No report.
None? All right. We'll keep on moving down the line. Councilman Gilbert. Yep. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Yes, I've had a report finally, a committee report.
All right.
So Baby U presented to the council and shared all the great information that their program entails, and it targets the zip codes 37404, 37407, 37410. And they not only work with teen mothers, but they work with the fathers as well. And the great thing about this is outside of these zip codes, if you are homeless and pregnant, they service you as well. So it's a great program to be a part of. If you know anybody that attends Howard High School or Brainerd High School, Brainerd has just been added on at the beginning of the year. But if you know any students that are pregnant and can take advantage of this wonderful program, please refer them. Tyner isn't included yet.
Councilman Byrd. No report, Chair. Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Today we had a water quality report, and it had to do with how rates are determined, our rate process determination. And it was very interesting, very informative, and we'll be hearing more later. Next week, we have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting where we'll discuss everything on next week's agenda and the following one. And I want to thank Justin for having a great sense of humor and also working very hard with Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Burrs. And while we're on you, I'd like to ask the audience and any pastors that may be listening in to please offer your prayers in lifting Councilwoman Burrs up as I request that she lead this council in our next budget session as the chair of finance for us, please, ma'am.
That's a big ask, Mr. Chair, and
Can I take the word ask out and just ask for the prayers?
It will cost you, sir, but I would be happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You've led that committee before, and it's never gone so well as when you were head
You're
of that.
putting
so thank you.
$500 million in a woman's hands? Oh, that's right. It's already in a woman's hands. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this or not, but the chief financial officer, all the women, all the money's in women's hands. $500 million of it. That's amazing. Daisy, you think we can do that? I think we can do that. Thank you,
It
Mr.
just
Chair.
feels right.
Yeah, we can
Chairman
do it.
Mitchell.
We can
I mean,
do it. Thank you.
Chairman
He's
Smith.
over there.
I'm glad you reached out to the pastors before making that appointment.
Yes, yes. I wanted to do that just in case she didn't make it through it. Thank you, Councilwoman Burrs. That is much appreciated and will be by this council.
Glad to do it.
Thank you. With that, we move on to the time in our agenda where we recognize persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda items. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to do that this evening? All right, have at least one. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the rules?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anyone interested in addressing the council will only be recognized at the microphone. You have 5 minutes unless the council provides for additional time. You cannot personally attack or personally denigrate others. You can't use any obscene or vulgar language. You can only address council on matters that are within its jurisdiction. And again, these are on non-agenda items. And Mr. Chair, you're prohibited from recognizing persons more than twice on non-agenda items during a 30-day period. We have 4 people on that list. Joel Willis, Emma Wagner, Ginger Moss, and Christopher Dahl. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If you please give your name and we'll start your time.
Sure, thank you. Rick Carpenter. I've been asked to come up because we're limited in how we can ask and to sort the censorship there. Somebody has asked me to ask a question who can't ask the question because they're on your list. And of course, I do have the same question, something that you were talking about today, chasing people off from the homeless camp. If that's a brownfield land and it's contaminated so highly, I don't understand why we're not cleaning it up. And of course, every time it rains, I'm guessing that contamination rolls off of that land. And I do believe there's a wellness center that's built very close to that land, if not probably on the same type of land. So I'm kind of wondering if there hasn't been maybe a overreach of authority or maybe goodwill here to protect a bunch of people that are different in their ways of living than maybe the city's vision for apartment complexes allows. Because really and truly, it seems to me as though it was a targeted selection. There was a camp being built there, and it was tents. And it's not what we are envisioning of Chattanooga. And I don't know what you are envisioning of Chattanooga, but I do know we're inviting a lot of New Yorkers here and a lot of people from Atlanta. And I go down, I look at how y'all are building, and it looks like Cape Cod. Oh my God, I hate Cape Cod. I don't want to see another Cape Cod building in Chattanooga ever again. But there we go. I don't understand if you're going to call it a Brownsfield and it's contaminated, you're going to have a wellness center right next to it. So that's kind of in the back of my mind. And then also on your homeless deal with the panhandling ordinance, I understand that you kind of left off the campaign donations. So I'm kind of annoyed because it seems like we've wasted a lot of time doing this panhandling ordinance. And yet all a panhandler has to do now is come up to anybody on the street and say, I'm running for office. And then ask me for anything you want, as hard as you want. So maybe we need to revisit that.
I'm sorry, that's an item that's on the agenda.
Okay. So we're going to consider that then? Yeah.
You can't discuss it, that's an item on the agenda.
Oh, I can discuss anything I want to. You don't have to hear it, and you can refuse to hear it, but there you go. So that's something I was seeing, and I do think that maybe if we're going to do that, and for it to be successful, that we need to think about exactly how panhandlers panhandle.
Mr. Carpenter, you come down to this council and you address us on multiple occasions, and you are always welcome and encouraged to do so.
Thank you.
But please respect the fact that we do have the rules in place about not discussing non-agenda items. All we do is ask you to adhere to that. If you need an additional time to speak at another time, I'm more than happy to grant that to you. But those are the rules that are in place. All I ask is that you respect that. Everybody up here is being perfectly quiet.
Sure.
And giving you every opportunity to voice your concerns about any issues you have with us. But when the city attorney reminds you, I appreciate the same level of respect that we're offering you, being quiet and allowing you to have your say, that we're asking of everybody else in here that speaks to us every week in and out.
Sure.
So please, if you wouldn't.
Well, I totally understand that, but I also understand that there are rules set up in just in the limitation of saying that you can only speak 2 times a month. I mean, that's censorship. I mean, you're not hearing, when you do something like that, then people can't express anything. You're just basically censoring the will of the public. And that, I think, is something that we need to revisit. How can I revisit that? I mean, same with the school board. You know, they go down and they say you can't talk about certain things. And those certain things need to be talked about. That's where we're failing, is because we're not talking about the things. I mean, I'm very happy that we're now finally meeting benchmarks of the consent decree. For goodness sakes, why has it taken this long? We have fallen so far behind, basically because people can't talk about things that need to be done. I mean, I'm sorry, guys, if you think our tap water is good and we have good water quality, you are mistaken. And this is going to go far into the future. And we should have acted on this when the EPA told us to act on it. And to have Justin Holland come up here and put a spin on things doesn't help. We got dirty, filthy water. We've got contaminated brownfield that you want to take people off of. I get that. We need to correct that. And I would like to see my tax dollars be spent on the things that they're saying they're being spent on. And that's all I want to make sure of. So maybe the censoring of how we speak and how we talk might be a start. So that's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council.
Evening.
My name is Samantha Booker. I'm a resident of District 7. I just wanted to come up here today and thank you guys for taking action to protect our citizens on the brownfield. And I really look forward to the Fair Housing Conference, and I hope that we can find some long-term solutions to those problems via that conference. And I just wanted to reiterate that our community appreciates that you guys are looking at taking real, meaningful action on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jim Johnson, and I'm a resident of North Chattanooga, and I own a small business there. I wanted to make the City Council aware of a new organization that is forming. It's called Chattanoogans for Responsible Development. And in barely 3 weeks of existence, we have nearly 300 members. And I must say, a lot of them are quite upset, quite vocal, and a lot of the voices I hear in the community, and sometimes even in this chamber, are people who feel they have no voice. They're frustrated, they're angry, they vent, they accuse, but that's not always productive. One of my favorite sayings is that it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. So my sincere hope is that the organization that's forming will not be about complaining and accusing. It will be about coordinating between neighborhoods and also helping to give people a voice. It will be about coming up with solutions that help our neighborhoods and our city. When I moved here about 20 years ago, I heard again and again about this thing called the Chattanooga Way. And I view this organization as helping to promote that spirit. And with that, I would like to stress that we view ourselves as partners with the City Council and with city agencies, not as adversaries. Some of my most rewarding experiences as a citizen in Chattanooga have been working with people like Donna Williams. Blythe, are you still here? You still here? Justin, I'll have to point you out because that's apparently what people do here. I'm also a huge fan of John Bridger and the RPA, and I've worked with them on a number of projects. At the same time, these agencies have extremely talented people working for them, but they don't always have the resources to research and accomplish as much as they'd like. One aspect of what we hope to accomplish as a group, if they're open to it, is to leverage their work, identify best practices nationally and internationally, and help those practices take root here. For example, I applaud your resolution last week authorizing the RPA to develop a zoning policy relative to steep slopes and to forest land in the city. And you don't need to go past Atlanta to find a best practice, specifically their strict policies on tree removal. And their policy states, "It is the policy of the city that there shall be no net loss of trees within the boundaries of the city, so that the city will continue to enjoy the benefits provided by its urban forest. No person shall remove any tree having a diameter of 6 inches or more located on private property without obtaining a permit." And I was actually bicycling in Atlanta last Sunday and saw a lot of signs up saying, if you have a problem with this tree coming down, contact the tree commission. So you can't just routinely cut down trees. But I'm not just referring to the policy alone as a best practice. What are the best practices of the developers who are able to work profitably within that city policy? What are the best practices by developers who look to alternatives to the clear cutting that's been routinely allowed in our city? We also look at the example of Stringer's Ridge that pointing to Justin again, he's been instrumental in making Stringer's Ridge what it is today. And the community came together to rescue it from development, and the city's taken it proudly over as an urban forest park. So there may be some things that we can likewise do, working with local land trust organizations, foundations, and community groups to look at ways to conserve land and provide federal tax benefits to developers. It's an organization in its infancy and exists admittedly more on Facebook than in physicality. I don't know where it will lead, but I did want to bring it to your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Hi, my name is Lynn Bartoletti, and I don't have a prepared statement, but I would like to back up Mr. Johnson there. We would really like to see trees getting protected. We've lost some 200-year-old oak trees in St. Elmo, as well as some 125-year-old oak trees. We would really like to see some kind of policy on trees passed. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew Adams, and I support a lot of the language that was just used in reference to developers sort of having their way. But I feel like I'm interrupting a sort of prearranged agenda by complaining about a personal issue, and that is an alleyway between Rossville Boulevard and Taft Avenue that has been fenced off by just whoever got there first. And my property one of my commercial properties backs up to that now fenced off alleyway. And on the other side of the fence from me is a huge amount of tires. And I was in here a couple weeks ago and brought it to your attention, and pretty sure somebody did go out there and address the situation. And I had to chase that individual down and learn that the regulation on tires was not put in place until sometime in 2015. And anybody who was in the business to do with anything with tires previous to that is grandfathered in to apparently just do literally whatever they want to do. So if it can't be dealt with just from the presence of the tires, then a public health issue, because I have tenants on that property. And another one of my properties is the first structure on Rossville Boulevard at the 23rd Street intersection. And it's coming. It'll be here in a month or two, just a completely debilitating amount of mosquitoes. So, and if not, either of those two issues will cure this, then the alleyway needs to be cleared open. And that will restrict his ability to store these tires and junk cars and shade the area and produce copious amounts of mosquitoes. So I'm not sure if any of that has any
Let me say this, in regard to the tires, I don't know who told you that, but I know for a fact that's not true. That's actually my legislation.
Okay.
I'm quite familiar with it.
Okay.
There are no grandfathers
okay.
in that legislation. So if that's the case, we need to make sure that whoever did come out there also understands that.
Okay.
As I have every expectation that our city attorney has already made a note of that.
Okay. I appreciate it.
If you wouldn't mind making sure that our clerk has your address
okay.
of the location, we'll double check it for you.
Okay. Do you want me to just state it right now?
Sure.
Openly, 2335 Rossville Boulevard is the address of the tire store. My address on the other side of the alley is 949 Taft Avenue, and I also have 2321 Rossville Boulevard.
All right.
So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council this evening? We are adjourned.
Good job. Yeah. So here's what happened. You turn the mic off.